I am 77 years old. That I want you to sit with that number for just a moment before we go any further. Not because it is remarkable, plenty of people reach it, but because of what it means from the inside. From here, looking back, the distance between 25 and 77 does not feel like 52 years. It feels like a single long exhale. One breath. And then you are standing where I'm standing, looking back at a life that went by so much faster than anyone warned you it would. I have buried a wife. I have watched children become strangers and then slowly find their way back. I have had money and lost it. I have had health and lost that too. I have made decisions I was certain were right that cost me decades. And I have made small, quiet choices, ones I barely noticed at the time, that turned out to be the most important things I ever did. I am not a famous man. I have not built an empire or written a book or appeared on a stage anywhere. I am a retired schoolteacher from a small town who spent 41 years trying to help young people think more clearly than I did at their age. That is my qualification for speaking to you today. Not an achievement, just time. And the particular kind of clarity that only comes when you have lived long enough to see how most of your fears were fiction and how most of your regrets were optional. Here is what I want you to understand about why I am making this video. That I am not ill, not urgently, not terminally, but I am 77, and 77 has a way of concentrating the mind. Every morning I wake up feels less like a guarantee and more like a gift that I have not yet figured out how to deserve. And the longer I live with that feeling, the more it seems like a waste, an actual criminal waste, to keep the things I've learned sitting quietly inside me, unshared, waiting to dissolve when I do. So this is my letter. To you, whoever you are, however old you are, whatever you are carrying right now. I am not going to tell you to work harder. I'm not going to tell you that success is waiting for you if you just believe in yourself. I have no interest in the things people say when they want to sound wise without saying anything true. What I want to tell you is harder than that, and more useful. That I want to tell you what I wish someone had sat me down and said when I was 30, when I was 45, when I was 60 and still making the same mistakes with slightly better excuses. That I want to tell you what I know now from here with the one thing none of us can buy more of: time. Are you ready? Because I don't have any to waste, and neither do you. Now, I want to earn the right to speak to you because I'm aware of what this looks like from the outside. An old man in front of a camera telling younger people how to live. I have rolled my eyes at that myself, more than once, more than twice, so I understand. If part of you is already skeptical, you should be. Skepticism is healthy. It means you're paying attention that, let me tell you, not just who I am, but what I have actually lived through. Because credentials on a wall mean very little. What a life has actually cost you. That means something that I got married at 26 to a woman I was not ready for. Not because she wasn't extraordinary, but because I was still performing the idea of a man rather than being one. I spent the first decade of our marriage chasing things I thought would finally make me feel like enough. A bigger salary, a better title, the approval of people who, I now realize, were equally lost and equally pretending that we almost didn't survive it. But we did. 43 years. And the last 15 of them, after I finally stopped performing and started showing up, were the best years of my life. She passed away 4 years ago. I would give everything I have accumulated to have one ordinary Tuesday afternoon back with her. I raised 3 children. Imperfectly, inconsistently, with the best intentions and a startling lack of self-awareness. I was the father who showed up to the school play, but missed the quiet conversations that actually mattered. I was present in the room and absent in the ways that counted. It took my eldest son until he was 38 years old to tell me that. And it took me until I was 73 to truly hear it, that I have had 2 serious health scares. I have lost friends, good men I thought would outlive me, to hearts that gave out, to diseases that didn't negotiate, to accidents that happened on ordinary Wednesday mornings when nobody was expecting anything but another ordinary Wednesday. I tell you all of this not to perform vulnerability. I tell you because I want you to understand that what I am about to share did not come from books, though I have read many. It did not come from seminars or podcasts or motivational content, though I have consumed my share. It came from living, from failing, from watching, From the long, slow, sometimes painful process of paying attention to an actual life across an actual span of decades. And here's what that has taught me about the research, because there's research, studies on human happiness, on regret, on what people wish they had understood sooner, consistently point to the same handful of truths. Not dozens, not a complicated system, just a few things. Quietly, stubbornly, consistently true, and almost nobody is living by them. So here it is. What I know, what I wish I had known sooner. Not a list of 10 habits or 7 steps or any of the packaged wisdom that sounds good and changes nothing. Just 3 truths, the ones that have proven themselves across every decade of my life, across every conversation I have had with people near the end of theirs. I call them the 3 things nobody tells you when you are young enough to use them. The first thing, you are not running out of time. You are running out of attention. Every young person I have ever spoken to believes their fundamental problem is time. Not enough hours, not enough years. Life moves too fast. But when I look back, and I've had a great deal of time recently to look back, that was never the real problem. The real problem was where my attention was pointing. That I spent years, decades, with my attention aimed at the horizon, at the next thing, the future thing, the thing that would finally arrive and make the present moment worth all the waiting. My attention was almost never here, almost never on the meal in front of me, the person sitting across from me, the Tuesday afternoon that felt ordinary and was, in fact, extraordinary simply by virtue of being happening at all. The research on this is unambiguous. Psychologists studying end-of-life reflection, including landmark work from Cornell University on what people regret most, consistently find that the deepest regrets are not about things people did. They are about presence, about the moments people were physically in, but mentally somewhere else entirely. You do not need more time. You need to come back to the time you already have. The second thing, the relationship you are most neglecting is the one that will matter most. That I have watched men, good men, intelligent men, pour everything they had into their careers, their ambitions, their public lives. And I have sat beside some of those same men in their final years in hospital rooms and quiet living rooms and garden chairs in a late afternoon and listened to what they talked about. They did not talk about their accomplishments. They did not revisit their proudest professional moments. They talked about people, always people, the ones they had loved insufficiently, the ones they had taken for granted, the conversations they kept meaning to have and never quite found the right moment for. There's always one relationship. You know which one I mean, even as I say it, that you are currently underinvesting in. A parent you keep meaning to call more. A child you keep meaning to understand better. A partner who has been trying to reach you in ways you have been too busy to receive. That relationship is not waiting indefinitely. Nothing waits indefinitely. Go there first. Go there now. Go there before the ordinary Tuesday becomes the last one and you didn't know it. The third thing, most of your suffering is a conversation you're having with yourself. This one took me the longest to learn. And it is the one that, when I finally understood it, I grieved not having understood at 30. The vast majority of the suffering I experienced across my life did not come from what actually happened to me. It came from the story I told about what happened to me. The interpretation, the meaning I assigned, the narrative I constructed and then carried, sometimes for years, without ever questioning whether it was accurate. We are all, every one of us, walking around inside a story we wrote about ourselves a long time ago. A story about who we are, what we deserve, what is possible for us, how much space we are allowed to take up in the world. And for most people, that story was written during their most vulnerable years, by people who were doing their best, but were also operating from their own unexamined stories. You are allowed to rewrite it. At any age, at any stage. I rewrote mine at 64. I wish I had started at 34.3 things. Attention, relationships, the story you tell yourself, simple, stubborn, true. But here is where most wisdom, even the genuine kind, gets it dangerously wrong. Here is where I am going to disagree with almost everything you have ever been told about getting older, and about wisdom, and about what it actually means to live well. Because there's a version of advice that gets handed down from older generations to younger ones that sounds like wisdom, but functions like a cage. And I have spent too many years inside that cage to stay quiet about it now. With age comes wisdom. No, with age comes experience. Wisdom is optional. It requires something most people, including most older people, are never willing to do. It requires going back through your experience honestly, without flattering yourself, without rewriting the parts where you were wrong, without quietly reassigning blame to make your own story more comfortable. I have met 70-year-olds who are simply older versions of the same frightened, defensive, self-protecting 25-year-old they always were. Age did not teach them anything because they were never genuinely willing to be taught. They confused survival with growth. They mistook stubbornness for strength and called it character. Age gives you material. What you do with the material is entirely up to you. You'll understand when you're older. This phrase was said to me. I said it to my children, and I now believe it is one of the most quietly damaging things one generation says to another. Because what it communicates, underneath the surface, is this: your experience right now does not count. Your pain is not yet valid. Your understanding is insufficient. Wait until you are where I am, and then you will finally be qualified to have an opinion about your own life. That IT creates a permanent deferral. A sense that real living is always somewhere ahead, waiting to be unlocked by the passage of time. And it is not true. A 25-year-old in genuine grief is not experiencing less real grief because they have fewer years behind them. A 30-year-old making a difficult decision deserves the full weight of their own judgment, not a patronizing instruction to wait and see. Your life is happening now, not later. Now, focus on leaving a legacy. I understand the intention behind this, but I have watched the pursuit of legacy quietly destroy the very relationships it was supposed to honor. Men who missed their children growing up because they were building something to leave behind for those same children. Women who sacrificed their health, their friendships, their present joy for a future reputation they would not be alive to enjoy. Legacy, if it comes at all, is a byproduct. It is what remains when a person has simply lived honestly, loved generously, and shown up consistently for the people in front of them. It is not a strategy. And the moment you start treating it like one, the moment you start performing your life for some imagined future audience, you stop actually living it. The people who mattered most in my life did not leave legacies. They left impressions. On me, on the people they touched. Quiet, lasting, unremarkable to the outside world, and absolutely irreplaceable to the people who received them. Stop building monuments. Start being present. That is the whole instruction. And yet, even knowing all of this, there's still one specific practice that changed everything for me in a way that no amount of reflection alone ever could. I want to give you something practical. Something I stumbled into not by reading about it or being taught it, but by accident in the quietest and most ordinary of circumstances. That IT was 4 years ago. 3 weeks after my wife passed, I was sitting at the kitchen table at 2 in the morning, unable to sleep, surrounded by the particular silence that only exists in a house that used to hold 2 people and now holds 1. And I picked up a piece of paper, not a journal, just a piece of plain paper from the printer, and I wrote her a letter. Not for her. She was gone. I wrote it for myself. I wrote everything I had never found a right Tuesday to say. Everything I had assumed she already knew. Everything I had meant to say later, and then suddenly there was no later left. And somewhere in the middle of writing that letter, something shifted. Not dramatically, not like a revelation in a film, just quietly, like a window being opened in a room that had been closed too long. That I've been writing letters ever since. And I want to tell you exactly how to use this practice, because done with intention, it is one of the most powerful tools for clarity that I have ever encountered in 77 years of living. I call it the unsent letter method, and it works precisely because it will never be sent. Here is exactly how to do it. Choose one person, not a concept, not your future self, not the universe. A specific, real, living person in your life right now. Someone you love, or someone you have unfinished business with, or someone you've been taking quietly for granted. Now write them a letter, by hand if you can. There is something about the slowness of handwriting that forces honesty in a way that typing does not. And in that letter, you follow 3 simple instructions. Say the thing you have been assuming they already know. The love that feels too obvious to mention. The gratitude that sits permanently in the back of your throat, waiting for a better moment that keeps not arriving. Say it in writing, in full sentences, without abbreviating it into a text message. Name the moment you're most grateful for. Not the grand occasion, the small one, the Tuesday afternoon equivalent, the specific, ordinary moment that somehow became one of the most important memories you carry. Describe it in enough detail that they could see it. Ask the question you have been afraid to ask, not accusingly, genuinely. The question underneath all the surface conversations you keep having. The one that, if answered honestly, would change something between you. Then, and this is important, you do not send it. You keep it. You read it back to yourself, and you sit with what you discover about what you actually feel when nobody is watching and nothing is being performed. What the unsent letter does is remove the audience. And when the audience disappears, when you're no longer writing for their reaction or managing their response, the truth comes through with a clarity that is sometimes uncomfortable and always useful. After you have read it back and sat with it, then you decide, what part of this do I actually want to say out loud? What part of this has simply been living, unexamined inside me, quietly shaping how I show up for this person? Some of my letters have stayed unsent. They were written for me, to excavate, to understand, to grieve something I had not yet named. Some I have rewritten carefully, gently, and delivered. In person, over the phone, across a kitchen table with 2 cups of tea going cold, because the conversation that mattered finally took precedence over everything else. Those conversations have been the best of the last 4 years of my life. Oh, not wait until 2 in the morning with an empty chair across from you. Write the letter now. While they're still there to receive what comes from it. I am 77 years old, but I do not know how many more mornings I have. None of us do, and that is precisely the point. That uncertainty is not a reason for fear. It is an invitation. The most urgent, generous, quietly insistent invitation life ever extends to any of you. Here is what I am asking you to do. Not tomorrow. Tonight. Write 1 letter. Just 1. Pick the person whose name came to your mind while I was speaking, because someone came to your mind, I am certain of it, and write them the letter you have been carrying unwritten for too long. You do not have to send it. You just have to write it. Honestly, completely, without editing yourself. For their reaction, see what it shows you about what you have been holding, and then decide what to do with what you find. That is the whole assignment. 1 letter, 1 person, 1 honest hour. If this video reached something in you, something real, something you were not expecting to feel today, I want to hear about it. Leave a comment below. Tell me which of the 3 things landed hardest. Tell me who came to mind when I spoke about the relationship being most neglected. You do not need to share everything. Even a single sentence reminds someone else watching that they are not alone in carrying these things, that if there is someone in your life who needs to hear what was said in this video, a son, a daughter, a friend moving too fast through a life they have not yet learned to be present for, share this with them. It may be the most important thing you do for them today. Subscribe if you want more of these conversations. There is more I want to say before I can't. And please, don't waste the Tuesday you are currently in. Disclaimer. This video represents the personal reflections and lived experiences of one individual and is intended purely for inspirational and educational purposes. It does not constitute professional psychological, medical, financial, or life coaching advice. The research referenced is drawn from publicly available studies and is presented in general terms. Every individual's life circumstances are unique. If you are experiencing grief, depression, anxiety, or any mental health challenges, please seek the support of a qualified mental health professional. You deserve personalized professional care, and asking for it is always the right thing to do.